Hello all and welcome to episode 22 of the Sky Fantasy Podcast by Fantasy Football Hub. My name is Andrew and I'm joined as usual by two of the most successful Sky managers in the game. Firstly, Paul McAnulty. How was your weekend gone, Paul?
Probably as average as most people's on Sky, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Who did you captain yesterday and today?
Werner yesterday and KDB today.
Yeah. So. Don't think it's really massive losses in all fairness, is there? Because I
think so.
Yeah, they were the popular ones. We also have former Sky winner Dan Cox with us. Dan, what are your thoughts on the weekend's action?
Well, I was having a good week. Started Monday was good, wasn't it? Dorrian. Yesterday was all right. Today was all right till about 4 o'clock. And now, like my head, don't know. Strange afternoon, and I don't know what's going on, mate. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm here.
Good. It just like feels at the moment because all the games are kind of linear and staggered. It feels like after every game, we're just left kind of scratching our heads after every game of what we just witnessed and what's going on. That kind of Brighton Man United game yesterday, and even Spurs Newcastle game. Earlier on, Man City Leicester 5-2. Even that game then, West Ham 4-0 against Wolves. Which has just come through. It's just the strangest season ever. It's very difficult to kind of get on top of trends and stuff. And I was a bit hacked off, and I actually looked at my Sky team. And in Sky, I've actually done all right, but in like FPL and TFF, I'm kind of littered with Jimenez's and Wolves defenders and no Vardys and all this thing. So it's not that bad in Sky, but I suppose the hardest part of doing a live stream straight after a fancy run like this is having to come on the stream with like raw emotion. When I do the FPL on like a Monday or Tuesday night or another way, it's like you've had time to have a think about it and plan, but now it's just like but yeah.
I sent you both a message last week, didn't I? Saying that if Vardy scored a couple of goals or something, I was just going to be absolutely raging, and thankfully he didn't last week. But yeah, that's the thing with a Sunday. You do come into it straight like, what the hell has just happened?
Like exactly, it's crazy.
I don't know. Even that we all pretty much had a terrible first weekend, didn't we? And I had like people message me saying, "Surprised you're all on the first week. That's so bad." And you're like, "Yeah, but we'll have to be here." Do you know what I mean? It's going to be like that. We'll have last week was good. This week was all right. I wouldn't say it's terrible. We'll get to that more in a bit, can't we? But
we will.
It's been a weird day, but unless you're one of the few with Vardy or I don't know, Bowen or something. But I don't know.
Indeed.
It's just bizarre.
Okay, so evening everyone on the chat, evening Marius, evening Reese Bloomer, Mark Daniels, Pompey Lad, Paul Evans, Geo Boys, Mark Brown, Liam Dorrian, Michael Chappell, Lodders88. Welcome all. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to everyone on the chat. As we're live, please feel free to join in at any time. Let us know your thoughts on the topics or the relevant sections, and feel free to ask some questions for us to answer at the end. For any new watchers and listeners, if you haven't subscribed to us yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and set the alerts to make sure you don't miss our live streams, which are 9 p.m. every Sunday evening right here on this channel. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content, and don't forget to download our new free app, which includes everything our website offers. Just search for Fantasy Football Hub from wherever you get your apps. So I think I've calmed down a little bit now. I was having a bit of a rage earlier. Just an example, right? So in Telegraph, I made my first transfers of the season because I lost Doherty's clean sheet in whenever it was the 89th minute, and I had De Bruyne and Foden aiding that. So I thought, right, I'm gonna be proactive now, be aggressive, and I'm gonna bring in Roman Saiz to tighten up my defense. And I'm going to bring in Raul Jimenez as my strikers. So at the end of the day, worse than if I did. But I calmed down now. But we were, having a brief chat before we went live, and I do think that football has changed, and I can't put my finger on it exactly. Obviously, there is like a penalty aspect, but I don't know whether. I think we touched on it briefly last week, but the fact there's no crowds seems to just, I don't know whether it makes teams less solid at the back at home, for example. They haven't got that kind of energy and buzz from the crowd to help them. I'm not sure as well as whether all the games being staggered and like every game being live on TV. You know when you normally watch a game on Super Sunday or Monday night. They normally played with like kind of massive intensity, a lot of goals and stuff. I don't know whether that's playing a part. I don't know whether kind of lower teams attackers are just improving, or defending the Premier League is getting worse, or or both. I mean, we blame the penalties, just for example, on handball, but all three of Leicester's penalties earlier, were really good kind of turns in the box, all brought down, all obvious ones. And I suppose that it's very hard, because having played fantasy football for 20 odd years, you get kind of settled into just a way of playing, the kind of players you have to pick. But it does seem like at the moment that traditional thinking in terms of the way to play fantasy and the kind of players you pick, I wouldn't say it's gone out the window, right? But you definitely need to adapt, and I think we need to work out how to maximize fantasy points in this sort of new world of football, because it's just crazy, And I'm not just talking about Sky, talking about FPL, TFF, Sun Dream Team, all these different games. Is all the points are coming from unusual sorts of sources. Paul, have you got any kind of, you've been playing as long as I have. Have you got any kind of thoughts on that, or do you just think that it's just the way it is? I don't know.
So like fantasy's always been about adapting to the times, I guess. I know we're not here to talk about Telegraph and FPL and stuff like that, but Telegraph, everyone was crying out for a 5-4-1 formation because all the values and defence and obviously what's happened at the start of this season, which was weird because at the start of Project Restart, there was a lot of 0-0s and there was a lot of defensive games, so it's pretty hard to put the finger on what's causing it. Obviously the penalty thing with the new handball rules, which I think most people are against. Even Steve Bruce came out and kind of condemned it, and that's a manager that's benefited from it as well. So yeah, can't put my finger on it, but I know that what we can do to utilise it is look at the stats that we've got, look at the penalty takers, if that's going to be something. I know that's something that we're going to speak about anyway. Yeah.
How about you, Dan? Obviously you've played lots of games over, for many, many years. What are your thoughts? Because things like premium strikers, premium defenders, and packing a team with kind of enablers has been a kind of standard format across all fantasy games for many, many years. Seems to have changed. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, like Paul said, it is just adapting with it, but it's just seems mental. Like we'll probably get to it later, won't we? But just trying to fill your side with how many penalty takers can you get? Like if Baines was still at Everton or something and on pens, you'd be like, well, he'd be in and just filling the team with penalty takers. But I don't know. Like I found today, I've got a right banging headache. I think it's just we've had football on the go since 12 today, haven't we?
Yeah.
There's been, and I know it is great, you can watch football, but it's a bit harder when you've got kids or whatever. But I've actually got a headache because I think I was checking the phone. How many passes have this De Bruyne got? He ain't getting anything else. And then, I don't know, there's just so much going on all day. I'm even thinking, I love football, I love fantasy football. I'm even thinking next weekend, once I do everything and set everything by 12 on Saturday, I might just do the match of the day challenge thing and then just watch match of the day at the end. Because I'm also I hate it when the game's and you think, yes, he scored. Oh, no, hang on, it's VAR or something. And you just like, oh, do you know what I mean? It just puts your head in a bit, doesn't it? So, I don't know. I think I'd rather just miss it all. I think I'm going to try it Saturday. Just miss it all. Switch match of the day on, and here we go. And then just have it all. Because if not, I'm literally there's even a late game on a Saturday, isn't there? So
it's like
you used to have your half
10-hour day in it now. Yeah,
half 12, your 3 o'clock, and one at 5:30. But like today, 4 games on back to back. Is this fried my brain today?
It'll be worse next Sunday. There's 6 on. I
saw that. Yeah, God. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Some of the guys in the chat have had a couple of rough ones we're looking at. I missed the top one there, but someone brought in Sice for Egan and took out Justin for someone as well. Bear, hi guys, good to see you on the Penalty FF podcast. My last act was bringing in Jimenez on TFF to play West Ham and Fulham. Disaster. We did it to react to every bloody game having penalties. I did exactly the same thing, Bear. Don't worry about that. Lodders had Kane captain. He should have had a hatful. And Jonathan Maloney in his second team, he transferred in Sterling and Jimenez. Yeah, it's very, very, very unlucky. Mark Daniels has it absolutely spot on. So our overhaul strategy, everyone's overhaul strategy should just be spin a wheel to pick our players who probably do better than if we picking the players ourselves. Thanks guys in the chat. It makes us all feel much better around our weeks in the various games. Okay, so thanks to everyone who replied with some topics for tonight's show. We did have a lot around the overhaul period, but our next 2 episodes will cover the overhaul completely and more. So hot topics from our Twitter followers ahead of Game Week 4. What to do with Werner. So we had lots of questions about Werner. Obviously, he is disappointed so far in terms of points. We will try and talk about him. Secondly, we will talk about our Monday night captain, because obviously tomorrow night Liverpool play Arsenal. Lots of us have got a Liverpool defender, but we're not sure whether a Liverpool defender is going to be enough or not with Salah on penalties and wherever else. So we will discuss that, and we will also discuss some of the questions we've had from the community. Thank you again, guys, for all your interaction and questions. It's much appreciated. We will also look at some ownership stats from Dan. We'll share our plans for Game Week 4, update our podcast team, look at average remaining transfers, give a couple of mini league updates, and finish off with Dan's rant. So firstly, Paul, could we have some stats from you, Paul?
Yeah, so all the stats are up to and including the Leicester Man City game, so not yet updated with the Wolves West Ham game. So now there's new leaders at the top of the bonus points. So overtaking Allen are Stuart Dallas and Luke Ayling from Leeds, both on 9 bonus points for the season, so averaging 3 a game. Stuart Dallas, I'd say strangely enough, but I guess if you watch Leeds, perhaps it's not strangely enough that his bonus points this week didn't come from tackles, but came from shots. So he got tier 2 shots today. So Bielsa changes his formation when he plays against defensive teams to sort of like what's it, the old style Championship Manager Christmas tree formation, the 3-1-3-3. So Dallas was playing sort of more centre midfield position as opposed to right back. So he picked up tier 2 shots today.
Could be an interesting one for overhaul.
6.4 I think it is. So
nice price.
Yeah, and Luke Ayling picked up tackles again. So they're both on 9 points. Allen remains on 8, and up on 8 as well as Mitchell and De Bruyne, whose 8 came from the one game on Monday night. And then there's 7 players on 7. So you've got Kante from Chelsea, Højbjerg picked up a passing bonus game today, Neil Moype, who's got shots bonus in every game, Calvert-Lewin got shots bonus in every game, Darlow saves bonus in every game, Harvey Barnes shots bonus in every game, and Guaita saves bonus in every game. So remember last year it was Dubravnik, the Newcastle goalkeeper. Remember, he was I don't think he finished top, but of points, overall points of the season. But if he didn't finish top overall points, he was very near the top.
I think he came second or third, and he had the most saves in the Premier League by an absolute distance.
Yeah, and Darlow's kind of followed straight on from that. I know he picked up man of the match today as well, but a good bit of work for whoever picked up Darlow earlier on in the season. So yeah, that's top of the bonus. Some passing stats. So most passes is Michael Keane, 245 passes in 3 games. Some notes on here. Romeo, for those that I kind of tipped Romeo at the start of the season, he's been a player I've picked in Sky a couple of times before based on his tackle bonus usually. But for those that picked him, he's been really unlucky this season. He has picked up some bonus, but he's hit 59 passes twice now. So unfortunate for those that picked on this thus far. And same with Doucouré, he's got 7 tackles, 151 passes, but hasn't got any bonus points. So unlucky if you picked him at the start of the season. I told you this before we went live on air, Fergie, because I know that you own this player, but most passes without receiving any bonus points at all. It's Luca Dean. So unlucky for those that sit with Luca Dean. He's got 55 passes twice and 57 passes once.
Unbelievable.
He's got So he's got the most passes without any bonus points. And I'll leave this one open to anyone in the chat that wants a guess. Most successful tackles that hasn't picked up tackle bonus yet this season. I'll leave that one. It's a slightly more obscure, but still a player everyone will be familiar with.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Paul. Some really good stuff. And I think we're starting to build a bit of a profile, of the kind of plays that we're going to be looking for in the whole, overhaul. Obviously, next week and the week after, we'll be looking at much more, into the overhaul. And I think we're starting to get a bit of an idea of who we're going to want in our teams for that. Okay, then. So, on to our first topic, and we had some questions in off Davla. Werner, bomb or keep? In the overhaul, we had a question off Brownie. Pulisic's return can't come soon enough for Chelsea. So far, they've lacked the creativity and cutting edge that Pulisic has provided. Can we see a different Werner when Pulisic returns post overhaul? At Sam Sky FF, before the season started, it seemed that you would need at least one Chelsea player, but so far none of the new signings have really performed. Will any Chelsea player be in your post overhaul teams? And FPL Renarid 9, is Werner an avoid after overhaul, or still a chance he delivers when Ziyech and Pulisic are back? Feels like I've been burnt having him. And at Dan Cox 82, please rant about the handball rule. It's ridiculous. So, Werner, chaps, what are your thoughts? Dan, can I come to you first?
Yeah, so he's actually the most transferred out player this week from what I can see. He's top on the Sky app. But yeah, he was in 24% of teams. He's in 21 as of this morning. That's probably even gone down as people would have took him out today. But yeah, I don't know. I can't see him making the overhaul team. People said he might take penalties, mightn't he, if Jorginho's not playing or whatever. But no, not for me. I think I'm going to want 3 strikers that are taking pens in my team. So yeah, I think I'm pretty disappointed that I picked him now, to be honest. But I think he did look like you needed a Chelsea player. So there was logic there, but yeah, he ain't done enough in 3 games for me.
What do you think of him, in terms of his performance as a player? Has there been anything there that you feel, you could work with, sort of thing?
No, I don't think. I don't think so, unless he does something in his last game before the overhaul. But no, that's not promising. Really not. Really disappointing Chelsea, really.
Okay, very interesting. And how about you, Paul? What are your thoughts on Werner?
He's a big purple patch player. If you look at his stats from Leipzig, he goes through 4 or 5 games with getting 1 goal or no goals. Then he'll hammer in goals against some lowly opposition. I think he had something like 15 returns in like a 9-game spell at one stage last season. Then he went on another patch where he didn't score 4 or 5 games. And then again, he had a second purple patch where he hammered in a lot of goals. So I think he's a confidence player. I think once he gets his first goal, we might see a hammer in. But based on his cost and I think we're going to talk about the overhaul obviously in the coming weeks. Yeah. But I think the striker options is going to be where everybody's concentrating a lot, because there's so many options, so many penalty takers. I think 15 out of the 20. The 20 penalty takers out of the Premier League teams are forwards, so the fact that Werner's would take up a spot there, I think most is going to avoid as likely am I.
Yeah, there's also you got Pulisic. Obviously, he finished last season absolute fire. I think he was 9.4. I want to say he's been injured obviously. And I think Ziyech is about the same price, or maybe a bit less, like 9.1 or something. So you've got other options. Havertz is 9.9 as well, I think. So
well, Liam Dorrian, obviously a champ from last year, and it was on the podcast at the end of the season. He's a big Azpilicueta fan, and I think he's going to come back in for Alonso now, because Alonso was dreadful. And Azpilicueta is always good for bonus, passing bonus, tackle bonus, assists as well. And then Reece James, I think he got up with 93 passes yesterday, something like that, on all set pieces, corners and such like. So there's definitely other options at Chelsea.
Sure. Some guys in the chat. Mark Daniel says, as you said, Paul, Werner's a streaky player. He goes 4 or 5 games without scoring. And Hornet says, which obviously I think is probably fair, if you have Werner, stick with him until the overhaul, which is probably right. There's only a game left. It's home to Palace, which is not the worst game. Obviously, you don't want to be kind of messing around taking Werner out for someone else, burning a transfer, especially when you've got the captains covered quite easily, on the Saturday and the Sunday.
If you had enough to do the Werner to sell a move tomorrow, if you had money in the bank, I wouldn't. That might be an opportunity there
instead of like Vardy
instead of Kane or
whatever.
something. Yeah, it depends what your forward line is, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. So yeah, I think I'm a bit more optimistic about Werner than you guys, and maybe this is why I'm not as good as as you guys. But in the first 2 games, I thought he played well. He won a penalty in both games. Okay, the second one was missed. He did obviously play on the left a bit more yesterday with Abraham up front, but I think he's actually played well. I think he's looked dangerous. Obviously he's going to need a bit of time to actually adapt, but I can understand.
Are you optimistic enough to be considering them for your overhaul?
Well, it depends on the fixtures and it depends on the days, right? But if Chelsea are playing first on a Monday night, just as an example, and they're the only game, just an example, I certainly wouldn't rule him out, because you would guess that many teams are going to have Bruno and KDB. I would guess, obviously, a massive, hefty chunk of budget, right? Yeah. And you're also going to probably have 2 of the expensive strikers, like Salah or or Kane or wherever else. And are you really going to want to be captain a Chelsea defender? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure you can afford to have 3 heavy hitters and Bruno and KDB and Pulisic and Reece James and Ziyech. So I think that I may be a bit more optimistic. And and also like you said, if he doesn't go 4 or 5 games without scoring, well, after the overhaul, if he still hasn't scored, he's gone 4 without scoring then. So he's due then, isn't he? But again, maybe I'm just being
maths would suggest that that's not the case.
No, exactly. But I'm really optimistic. Their fixtures are actually really nice after the overhaul. I'm not sure if the first game back's a bit of a tough one, but I'm sure they've got a nice few fixtures there. Lodder said he should have scored yesterday, but hit the bar. Pompey Lad says, is Coleman the guy for tackles?
Coleman is, he is. 8 tackles without receiving bonus yet.
Wow, that's really good. That's a really good spot there. Pompey Lad and Bebe. Werner worth keeping for the Palace game at least, but overhaul in serious doubt now. Yeah, I think we're agreed there. Andrew Lee, if we're not considering Werner, any Chelsea players worth it, considering their prices are 8.6 to 9.9, you can't rotate between premium forwards at those prices. This is what we just said. I think it depends how the fixtures fall, but I know Chelsea. I'll get them up in a minute, but I know they have got nice fixtures after the overhaul. I think they got 4 or 5 really nice ones. Lodders thinks DCL, Ings and Vardy are better options. And baby, I want to see Ziyech, Pulisic and everyone with a crack feeding Werner before I cast him out. It's a tough one. Absolutely. Really good stuff here, guys. So I think at the moment the general feeling is hold on to him. He's home to Palace in that final game. Don't waste a transfer. All captains are covered, and then we'll take a view. If he bangs a couple in next week at Palace, we'll be talking very, very differently, because how fickle this game is at the moment, right? We were all saying, if you looked last week at all the guys we said were fantastic last week compared to this week, compared to game week 1, it's all been quite different apart from Vardy on penalties, but other than that. So our second topic this evening is around tomorrow night's captaincy. So this is an interesting one. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of us will have Van Dijk or Alexander-Arnold or Robertson. A few of us may have Salah from last week, but I don't think the ownerships are that high. Actually, while we're on ownerships, Dan, do you want to give us a bit of ownership stats?
Yeah, so like I said, Werner was the most transferred out this week. Egan, he was transferred out a lot as well. Just hopefully people wouldn't have took him out for a Wolves player. Tierney, it was again one of the most transferred out this week, but I think he's all right for tomorrow night, isn't he? So, do you know what I mean? They might regret that. ASM, he's one as well. Again, because we had a few people asking, didn't they, whether they should do ASM to Alan, and we thought, he'd get you 10 points. Didn't pick up any bonus, did he, yesterday? And Aubameyang has also been transferred out of quite a lot of teams. He's still the most selected striker, but he's dropped by about about 2% of teams, 40% down to 38. Some of the most brought in players. So last week, before he scored 4 goals, Son was only in 3% of teams. He's now in 10%, and now he's got a hamstring injury, hasn't he?
Yes.
So that he's had a bit of a jump. Calvert-Lewin, he's gone from 3% up to 8.8% as of today. He's been on fire, hasn't he? So they're some of the main two. And the other one, James Rodriguez, he's been brought into a lot of teams as well. 2% again, 13 to 15.5%. And Zaha's been brought into quite a lot of teams. But most, I say, like Pope's still the most selected keeper. Alexander-Arnold's still the most selected defender. Aubameyang striker. And De Bruyne, most selected midfielder, now on 52% of teams, which most would have captained today as well. So, that's it. There's not been too much change really elsewhere. It's all like you're talking 0.5%, 1%. There's been no real big moves really.
He was marked out of the game earlier, wasn't he? I mean, what a contrast in play from Monday night when he I think he broke the record or not far off in terms of bonus points, in terms, his
full house.
Oh mate, he was unbelievable, and his impact and his overall play was incredible. And what a contrast today! They just completely crowded him out. And I was waiting for him in a bet. Actually, I just needed one shot on target for him for a bet.
Yes,
and he didn't look anywhere, even near getting a shot on target, which was
Sterling had that free kick.
That was that was a strange one, and if
Mahrez, even Mahrez, fair enough if Mahrez hit it. But...
And then he just hit it straight into the wall, didn't he? Tried the funky laces on the valve job and didn't get anywhere. He's probably popped one in training and said, I'll try one of these in a game. But De Bruyne from there, you've got to be giving it to De Bruyne. Especially, I think at the time they were only 2 or 3-1 down as well. They were still in the game at the time. So that was a very...
It was just before Ake scored the header from the corner.
Oh, okay. So it was 3-1 then, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Or was it 4-1? Anyway, it don't matter. Just to...
Daniel.
Was that, sorry?
We just lost you then, mate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for like 20 seconds, maybe.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I saw. Apologies for that, guys.
I was going to have to step in. So.
I just said as well the most insightful thing anyone's ever said on a podcast, and you've missed it all. I'll have to do it next time. Just to confirm those Chelsea fixtures after the overhaul. So they've got Southampton, Man United, Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle, and Tottenham as their first 6 back. So they're quite nice, I think, from an attacking perspective, unless those teams obviously shape up at the back. So our second topic was about the transfer tomorrow night then. So we've had questions off Reese, FF, Kane to Salah for a 2-for-1 or hold the transfer, and Luke Wilson, is it worth Werner to Salah for 1 transfer? If I do it, he'll be my captain versus Arsenal, so effectively a 3-for-1. So Dan, the first one, Kane to Salah for a 2-for-1 or hold, obviously with the captaincy, it's effectively a 3-for-1. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a good move. That's one I know Paul's earmarked it in and saved the money to do it. Especially with Salah taking penalties and the way they're going. I think that is a good move. I think it's a good, solid move.
And in terms of Luke's one, so this is what you mentioned earlier, wasn't it, Paul? Exactly. Is it worth Werner to Salah for 1 transfer? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's a 3-for-1 because you lose the additional points that your Liverpool defender would get for your captaincy on them.
Yeah,
so
that's a fair point.
It's weird. This is it's not contradicting what I'm doing because I had planned in to do Salah, and I almost think within even though his percentage ownership will be relatively high, Salah's this is, the fact that I left money to do this transfer almost feels like it's going to be a differential with a lot of the experienced players, and that's like a main reason for me doing it. But I was looking at the Arsenal stats because I always thought that they pressed relatively high up, and therefore didn't give the team that they were playing against a lot of passes. But looking at the Fulham game, 3 Fulham players picked up passing bonus against Arsenal, so it almost looks like Van Dijk or Robertson will pick up the passing bonus. So I don't yeah, for the reason that it feels like a differential is the reason that I'm going to do the Salah move. But for those that would sit in Captain Van Dijk or Captain Robertson, I wouldn't advise against that as well.
So obviously one of the advantages of bringing Salah in tomorrow is he's also a good captaincy shout next Sunday. They're away to Villa. Obviously Villa have tightened up, and Salah is not, as explosive away as he is at home. But how much is that in your thinking as well, Paul?
Just reminding myself what the fixtures are next Sunday. So I don't have Vardy for Leicester at home to West Ham. I don't have Aubameyang for Arsenal at home to Sheffield United. So I probably would captain Salah as well. So yeah, definitely. Although his away stats weren't nearly as great as his home stats last season, but the penalty factor and the fact that he does look a lot fitter this season, like even in the two games that we've seen him this season, he does look a lot fitter. So yeah, I would be captaining Salah then as well. And even it doesn't feel like I'm losing out on not captaining Kane, not having Harry Kane next Sunday, because I doubt those that own Kane will captain him. I imagine most would captain Bruno or captain the Liverpool defender or Vardy if you owned them.
Yeah, and obviously again, you could captain Van Dijk, or whoever else. I think the potential upside of Salah in these two fixtures with the penalties, as we say, if you captained Van Dijk and he scores 5 points, 7 points, 8 points, or 10 points, okay, you've done all right. It's probably unlikely that Van Dijk is going to score any more than that. The difference with someone like Salah, as we saw in Gameweek 1, as we saw with Vardy earlier, you only need a penalty or two to turn it quite quickly into a hat-trick, and a potential 40, 50 point haul. So you don't do it, and and you'd be gutted as well that if you did do it then on the Monday and you didn't bring him in, and then you wanted him for the Sunday as well, you feel like you're wasting him by doing it on the Sunday as well. So I think I think it depends how many fixtures you've used. I think if you've only used kind of one or two or even three, I think I personally think it's worth it. I think there's a lot more upside than essentially captain and defender. I think if you've used a lot more, I don't know, like 6, 7, 8 potentially, I'd have second thoughts maybe. Dan, what are your thoughts, on kind of number of transfers used, in terms of doing it, or would you just think just do it anyway?
The Salah one, well, I can't get Salah in my main team because I ain't got the money. So I could do Mane, but I don't know. Salah's the one I'm sitting here now. I'm thinking, oh my God, Salah is the one who I would want. I'm most worried about not having. But then I've got Van Dijk. So the plan always was to captain Van Dijk. So I think I'm just going to do that and have a couple of pounds on Salah to score a brace or something like that. But, I've had games like that before where, like last season, I captained Soyuncu in obviously a Leicester game. And I was worried about Vardy, but Soyuncu come out of a clean sheet and passing bonus, and Vardy scored 2 goals or something, and I'm happy with that what I got. So I just had to hope that Liverpool keep a clean sheet. I know it seems unlikely, but yeah, if they can pass a bonus clean sheet, I'll take that sort of 20 points. But I did see on Twitter, as you do, that Alisson might not be playing tomorrow or something like that. So
as well, yeah.
That's a bit of a worry. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I'd love to be able to get Salah in tomorrow. But yeah, it depends how many transfers you use. Like I've got the transfers for the top 10, 100 and all that, and there's people firing through the transfers. But just depends, if he's going to be your captain for Monday and Sunday, then yeah, I would make the move.
We touch on those then. Now, Dan, remaining.
Yeah, so this was as of Wednesday morning. So you can we've had yesterday and today, so it's only gone down by now as well. But top 10 has got 33.2 remaining. Top 100's got 33. Top 1,000, the average remaining is 35.1, and the top 5,000 is 36.1. So you can see that it's like, so it is kind of pointless looking at that leaderboard, really, because if the top 10 have used on average about 7 transfers each, then they're going to be out by Christmas, you'd think, or January. So it's a bit But it always happens, doesn't it? Every season, sort of thing. They just fire through them early on, but as people who obviously haven't found us and think maybe get another 40 in January or something.
I think as well, kind of like what I mentioned at the start of the podcast as well, because all the games now are kind of one after the other. I think that the fantasy football, and transfers are on your mind more or less, for like 12 hours or more a day. There's so much more kind of thinking time and time to convince yourself into a transfer nowadays. I think it is, I think it's harder than normal because, as you mentioned at the moment, the first match starts on a Saturday at 12:30 and the last one doesn't finish until wherever it's like 9:45. You get the lineups earlier than that as well, obviously, so you're talking like 11 odd hours there, and on a Sunday the first game starts, 12 and finishes at like 9. So again, you've got the 9 hours plus the hour, and it's just the whole weekend, and then all the Monday evening. We haven't had a Friday evening one yet, which has been quite strange, haven't it? I'm sure we'll have some after, but yeah, couple of comments in the chat. Michael Chappell, Dan, can you rant about the penalties? We'll come to Dan's rant later. I'm pretty sure that maybe on his agenda. And baby, I'm just waiting for a football to hit Dan's hand so Andrew gives a penalty. Lol. Absolutely. Mark Lewington asks how many points have 3 of you won. We will touch on that at the end when we come to our podcast mini league. And Craig S, I'm on 254, only had 31 this week though. Terrible week with 3 Liverpool tomorrow. That's not bad then, Craig, if you've got those 3 Liverpool. Not a bad score there. And just confirm for everyone who hasn't heard the news about Son. So he came off at half-time earlier. Again, the guys were on about in the chat earlier. He came off at half-time, and it does sound like he's got hamstring injury, and Mourinho has said he'll be out for a month. So he may be back after the international break, or maybe a little bit longer after that. But very hard luck for everyone who had Son, unless you had his 4-goal haul last week. It's kind of even out a little bit there. Okay then, so moving on then to some other questions we've had from the community. We had Ron again. I want to hear Dan's thoughts on the new handball rule. We'll wait till that at the end as well. Adrian Tor, some interesting ones. So should we be looking at penalty takers in midfield at the overhaul? Dan, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the game, has changed that much that should be kind of one of the number one factors we're looking at?
Yeah, I think so. Luke Williams, our mate, he tweeted out, didn't he, yesterday, like out of all the Premier League goals, how many have actually been penalties? Well, you think Vardy scored 5 goals, 4 of them have been penalties. It's just mad. So I'll be looking at De Bruyne is all right, and Bruno, the guy at Leeds, Klitsch or whatever, he takes pens, doesn't he? Get your 3 forwards that take pens, and I think that is it, innit? There ain't no defenders that take penalties or anything. So I think you probably do want like 4 or 5 penalty takers in your team because the rate they've been given, because that like that handball thing is just ridiculous, isn't it? So there's going to be loads of pens. Like that Dyer one, that was just mad, wasn't it? Like, so yeah, that's going to happen loads of times. It's happened so much already in 3 weeks. It's going to keep happening. So yeah, penalty takers, I think. So that's what I'm saying. If Werner doesn't take penalties, he's lost a bit of appeal for me. So hopefully Chelsea will get one and they'll take one, and that might sort of swing it his way. But when Vardy, when he scored the first weekend, we were devastated. He was terrible that game. He had he wouldn't have done nothing apart from them 2 pens. So do you know what I mean? You've got to have players like him and Kane, I dare say, Salah, just because they take the pens and they're probably going to get 10 penalties a season that they're going to put away. So yeah, I definitely think that, even if you want to do it with your B team or something, but just pick like 7 penalty takers and see how you get on.
With Vardy earlier, he would have had a 5th penalty, wouldn't he? But he was off the pitch, wasn't he?
Yeah, thank God.
It as well. He would have had 5 penalties in 3 games. That would have been.
He's won them all apart from one.
Yeah, and Glenn in the chat then actually said, in all fairness, he did win them. His turns were absolutely superb for them. In all fairness,
they were. Yeah,
you can't really
not these soft pens. He did actually win them.
He did.
Harvey Barnes has hit shots in every game, shots bonus in every game so far.
He's rapid.
You talked about him. You like him, Fergie, right?
He's rapid. He's he's so quick. He looks really, really dangerous, and he loves a shot. And he nearly got on the end of one in the first half when they broke, and it kind of hit Vardy's knee on the way through. Otherwise, Barnes would have been in the clear. He loves a shot. I think he's a really good player. I think he's underrated, and it's a shame because this penalty thing, right? Because I think he's quite cheap. I think he's like 8.2 million. I think he would be a decent alternative to Vardy. But now that Vardy's on penalties, you just can't look away from Vardy because I think we've mentioned in the past, if someone's on penalties and and kind of loads are being given, you don't have to play well to score a penalty. You've just got to be on the pitch basically. So I think it does help in terms of penalties. You've mentioned there kind of Salah, even like Ings, Vardy, De Bruyne, Bruno, potentially Werner, that a lot of them would be players we'd have in our team anyway. There's very few, maybe Cleach or Clicker.
Butch and Zaha's probably potentially.
And Zaha. Yeah, there's no kind of random ones, are there, where you kind of have them in. Yeah, exactly. So
if he was playing now, I'd have him in, even though he plays for West Ham, just because he'd get probably 10 penalties a season or something. So
who was the defender years ago? I want to say
Unsworth. Julian Dix used to take them for West Ham.
He used to belt them.
David Unsworth used to take them before Baines did for Everton. So.
I'm thinking of one.
And Sheffield United, I think.
A bit more recent. Someone Alexander, was it?
Graham Alexander. He played for Scotland. Yeah, he's Scottish, yeah.
He took... who did he play for?
Played for Burnley.
Was it Burnley?
He also made a mockery of Frank Ribery when we beat France 1-0 in the Parc des Princes when they were the world champions.
Yeah. Bonkers, isn't it? The game in India, pretty sure Vardy only had 15 touches of the ball and scored a hat-trick. These new rules are crazy. And Michael Chappell this season has a fast and loose feel about it. No fans, more pens, more goals. Indeed, you're right there. And Martin Beasley, Bruno Fernandes for penalties. Pompey 96, Dan's rant. Can everyone stop going on about Dan's rant? Brilliant, like that.
I wasn't even going to mention the penalties, to be honest. But I feel like I have to now.
You've got something else up your sleeve, have you, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, so next question then. It was from James Ingram, 1985. With TV fixtures being released without much notice, making planning for captaincy days harder, is it best to have players across numerous teams in the overhaul more than a couple of players from the same team? So obviously, this is an overhaul question, but thought it was a really good and insightful one, actually. So, Paul, I'll come to you first on this one. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because do you really want to be captain in your £6 million defender? And this is why, another reason why we were so pro transfer retention, not blasting all the transfers before the overhaul. You know that you're going to get a wild card effectively after 4 weeks to reset your team. And then if the fixtures do fall and you've not got any foresight in what the fixtures are, if the fixtures do fall and you've got a good structure, so you've got 2 premium strikers and 1 third striker that's, I don't know, around about the 9 million mark, I think Jimenez is a bit more than that, but your Ings, your Mitrovic type, then you can rotate with the transfers and then use the captaincy, so you are getting the pure 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s because you're getting the captaincy out of the player as well. So it's a tough one. I guess you ask yourself, would you, like, looking at the fixtures, would you be confident captaining the £6 million or the £6.5 million defender, or your 6.5 or your 7 million goalkeeper, or would you want the striker in knowing that other people might have him? And if that's the case, then I would use the transfers to rotate the strikers as opposed to filling my defence for the sake of it with a Lewis Dunk or a Ryan Bertrand or whoever to captain.
I do think we'll see the overhaul. I think I mentioned this last week. Now with the additional penalties, meaning that a lot more clean sheets ago. We were talking at the start of the season about having in potentially Van Dijk, Maguire, Laporte, Alexander-Arnold, wherever else. I don't think we'll see that now. I do think we'll see a lot more kind of 3 at the back. But if you think of the players who we're potentially talking about, you could have, say, Lamptey for Brighton, you could have Click for Leeds, you could have Pereira for West Brom. I don't think we're necessarily talking about poor options here. Maybe even those they're decent options. They're good for like attacking return or a bit of bonus. But obviously next week we'll talk more about our plan for overhaul, and then the week before the actual overhaul, then we'll start building our team and we'll get more into it. But yeah, it's really interesting to start
the fixtures. So Tuesday just gone was when if everything was normal, we should have then got the November fixtures. Now that the government has said that there is going to be no fans, I think that's what they were sort of holding out for, wasn't it? Like that's why we're getting 3 weeks because of that. So maybe now, if they're saying there's going to be no fans this year, not till next year, there's no harm in them then banging out there maybe 8 weeks worth. Do you know what I mean? It may happen, it might not. It's just it might happen. Do you know what I mean? Especially because like Europe's, going ahead in it sort of thing. So there's not going to be games spread out. There's not going to be a game every day because there's Cup, League Cup, this, that, and the other. So I don't know. Talking about the guy said about having different players. The thing that I've been thinking of, like, because Arsenal and Spurs are Europa League, you'd be thinking they're going to be playing on Sundays, aren't they? So it's not, if you have Kane or I don't know, someone from Arsenal, you probably don't want Kane and Aubameyang as your, 2 or your 3 strikers. But if you've got Kane, he's going to cover off for quite a few Sundays for you, just in case there's only a couple of games on a Sunday. But the way it is, there'd be 3 or 4, weren't there? So I don't know really. That was the only thing I thought was just have a Spurs or Arsenal player in there to cover off a Sunday.
I think that's a really good point, actually, Dan. I hadn't thought of that yet, but yeah, because I think I think Europe starts on like the final week of October or the second but 1 week of October, going into all through November. So even though we won't have the fixtures in advance, we can be reasonably sure that Spurs and Arsenal will play on the Sunday. So that does give us a bit.
We're all going to end up with Kane again, aren't we?
Yeah. But then I'd have had him after last week. After the haul, he got the 4 assists last week. He was, game week 1 when he did nothing, and you think, oh, why did I pick Kane? Then the second week, oh yeah, he's all right actually. And then again, he was like all right today when he
should have scored a couple early on, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Son hit the post. That would have been an assist for Kane as well, another one. And yeah, he got shot here in the first half, didn't he, or something like that?
And he hasn't had a penalty yet either. So he's due for them as well. So. And the final question we've had off David Rowe 92 is picking several base 5 players who don't really expect to do much else a viable tactic. I'm thinking Rodri and Allen. So yeah, 5 probably seems a bit of a lot in terms of as a midfield, but in terms of your defence and maybe 1 or 2 spots, I would say so. Paul, what are your thoughts on that? Having these kind of core or base players.
With the penalty takers, it's going to be difficult as well, right? If you're mentioning your 3 striker, like you want 3 strikers that are penalty takers. We've already talked about Bruno and KDB, or semi-locks in our team's clutch as well. So there's 6 players.
Is your front line gone?
Yeah, do you want a Liverpool defender, right? So that's like the 2 most expensive midfielders in the game. 2 expensive strikers. Doesn't even then Allen at 8.1 looks expensive when we get to that stage. I do see the merit. Obviously, I mentioned before. I like Romeo. He picks up a lot of bonus. He's been unlucky a couple of games, but if we can find the cheaper bonus enablers, which we will talk about more in the overhaul specials, I think that'll help us quite a bit.
Cool. Okay. Thank you very much there. Dan, anything else to add on there?
No, people. I know we had a few people on our chat on that on the Saturday, because I switched from Werner to Bruno last minute, and that was all. I was thinking, oh God, should I? Went with Bruno sort of thing, and he was thinking that's the result. And people who had Werner were like, oh, should have captained Bruno Fernandes, devastated. But like we spoke about beforehand, that's only 8 points different. If you had both, you missed out on 8 points. Do you know what I mean? So if you captain Bruno and Werner, you got 28, haven't you? And if the other way around is 20, so it's only 8 points. There's not a lot in it really. And today, I was thinking about Vardy, you're like, Vardy, oh my God. But you think, well, yeah, he's in 17% of teams, which is quite a few. But no one in the right mind would have captained him, would they? If you have, let me know, because you're mad. But, you think, so people wouldn't have captained him. It was only 23 points. Do you know what I mean? It's not, De Bruyne, you think the points De Bruyne got, he got 22 points, didn't he, Monday, I think?
Yeah, 22.
He got 22. So you think, Vardy got 23. It's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? And Kane got 8. So it's not the end of the world. Let's say it again with Calvert-Lewin yesterday. And you think, well, he weren't in that many teams, so don't worry about it. Just chill. Because I was fuming earlier. Just thought Vardy again, and I will drop down the rankings tonight a bit, but you just got to sort of forget about it, and move on, and think, yeah, I'm just going to put him in my overhaul team because I'm just sick of him scoring and not having him. I just hate him. So he's going to have to go in. But no, I think that's about it, really. And if you have got, if you did bring in Son, then if you can get him out to Mane or someone like that, because he's now not going to play next week, and you can get 2 games out of someone, do it. And even if you brought in like Jesus on Monday, well, that's just bad luck. You can't, he could have scored in that, and he could have scored, should have, could have, and stuff like that. So don't beat yourself up about it. You just sort of got to be calm and just sort of deal with it, really. It's just that, I know our mate Mark Edworthy, he brought in Sterling on Monday instead of De Bruyne, and it's just, he's gutted, but it's one of those things in it like that. On another day, Sterling could have scored a hat-trick, and you're like, cool, what a move that was. So there's so many captaincy days and so many choices to make that, you might have the wrong one day, but you get the right one next week and stuff. It's just your luck sort of thing. You ain't going to pick every captain every day, get the best captain. So, just go with it and keep your chin up.
I remember Liam at the end of the season had mentioned that he missed a couple of big hauls that was highly owned players earlier on in the season, and look at the run he went on later on.
Really good stuff there, guys, and really good advice. Just a couple of questions in the chat. Michael Chappell, does rank matter yet? How low down is screwed? Asking for a friend. I wouldn't be overly concerned. We've got the overhaul. As long as, I think as long as you haven't got a low rank and you've used a lot of transfers, I wouldn't be massively concerned, to be honest. As Paul just said, Liam last week, who won Sky overall, he made, was it like 200 points in a week or something just by picking the right captain. So if you're 50 points, 100 points, or whatever behind in your mini league, don't be concerned, really. We're still, it's hard to believe we're still only, haven't even finished game week 3 of 38 yet, but we're less than 10% through the season still. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of football and a lot of captains, and actually I think that there's going to be more captaincy days. I've been very surprised actually that we've only had the Saturday, Sunday and the Monday, because normally you had the Fridays as well, and obviously with the COVID impact as well, you could potentially expect a few more, over Christmas and things. You tend to have them over Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays as well, so it's going to be a lot of options. I remember in the good season I had a couple of years ago, I had Felipe Anderson, captained him on a Thursday night over Christmas, and just kind of random one, and he scored 2 goals on the match, and that catapulted me from, I can't remember where I was, but that put me firmly in the top 50 overall. And that one captain, that one impact captain, absolutely massive. So you only need the kind of.
I didn't have anyone that night. I was fuming.
Oh, it was. I'll remember that one forever. That's kind of one of those that sticks with you, because it was just one of those. It was probably the only good performance he ever had for West Ham. But
he was all right that season. To be fair,
he was
one season.
Him and Lanzini were really good, weren't they? Anyway, some of the guys in the chat are talking about all their scores. There's some guys in the late 200s, some in the 300s. Really well done, everyone who's been doing that. Fantastic work. So we're just going to move on then to next week and the transfer and captain options. So on Saturday, 3rd of October, so the final Saturday before the overhaul, we've got Chelsea at home to Palace. We're all going to be on Werner. I don't know about that. We've got Everton home to Brighton, and we've got Leeds away to Man City, and then we've got Newcastle and Burnley. On the Sunday then, we've got Leicester, West Ham, Southampton, West Brom, Arsenal, Sheffield United, Wolves against Fulham, Man United against Tottenham, and Aston Villa versus Liverpool. So, Paul, can I ask you first who your likely captains are, but also anyone else who you'd be a bit concerned of if you don't own them?
KDB on Saturday. I think Sheffield United did have a few chances today as well, so even though Leeds kept a clean sheet, they were still quite open. I thought Calvert-Lewin still, those that had Calvert-Lewin at the start of the season have done well and will probably be highly ranked, so those captain them again. So that would be my concern there. I can see people rage transferring Werner out tomorrow night. So he worries me less. And again, I think, Dan, you'd mentioned the point that I own Werner still. So even though if people did captain him and he did well, and I don't own Havertz, but yeah, I'm going KDB. I'm not too concerned about the other games. And then on Sunday, I'll probably captain Salah after bringing him in tomorrow night. Those that I would be scared of not owning, Vardy at home to West Ham.
Absolutely.
I don't think Ings is particularly high owned, or I certainly don't see him in a lot of Twitter teams or that.
13% Ings.
Was it?
Yeah.
They're at home to West Brom, so I can see Ings doing okay that game as well. And Aubameyang still, like you meant, he's still the highest owned forward, Dan, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so probably on the Sunday it'd be Vardy and Aubameyang would be the two that I'd be concerned about.
Okay, Dan, how about you?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Exactly the same as Paul, basically. That everyone he mentioned, I'm worried about, but I won't have Salah. So, I'll captain De Bruyne. I think Saturday and Sunday. I think I got Van Dijk, unless I go for Bruno or Kane, but that'll be one I'll decide this week. But yeah, worried about who he said, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin are my main, especially Vardy Sunday. I know we're going to be here next Sunday. I'm going to be just can't believe that he's got 4 penalties against West Ham or something like that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm going for De Bruyne against Leeds. So I remember in that first game, just remembering the amount of space that they had in between the lines and in the channels. It was absolutely crazy. And KDB for me is the perfect person to exploit. He didn't have any room today. Leicester just completely blocked him off. I think that Esler, the Leeds manager, is quite stubborn in the way he plays, and he just plays the way he plays. So I don't think that they'll have a plan for KDB. Maybe wrong. This is just what I'm thinking. So I'm over him there. If I bring in Salah tomorrow night, which I probably will, I'd probably captain him again. Obviously, unless he looks off it, or unless he gets injured or whatever else. I would also maybe be concerned of Jimenez home to Fulham as well on the Sunday, I suppose. And obviously, taking out Kane against Man United, it is concerning, because United aren't playing well and Kane is playing well. But I do think that Son being injured will impact Kane's output as well. They play as a pair and they've been playing really well together. So I suppose if Son was there, maybe a bit concerned about taking him out for Salah, but I'm a bit less concerned now. And United, again, they're going to have a rocket or something, right? They just can't continue playing like this, and got to be fair, as much as I can't stand United, they pulled out the bag yesterday, and I think that Bruno was spot on in his interview. They were challenging him on, but Brighton hit the post wherever 5 times, and Bruno basically said, "Yep, but we scored the goals and got the points." End of, and you can't argue with that. They've just got that a kind of mentality about them, and so yeah, I'll be going for those. Well done, anyone who's gone for Calvert-Lewin. What a revelation he's been. I tell you why I'm interested after overhaul as well is Richarlison. I know he would take up a striker spot, but he's very good for bonus and he is on penalties as well. So
6 pens, yeah.
I think Richarlison may be quite a good, cheap hit. I think he's 10.2 or 10.5, I want to say. Quite a decent, cheap striker.
Do you think the first game, I know we said we would talk about overhaul. About because the first game is against Liverpool, and I don't know if that will put people off taking an Everton forward, knowing that everyone else has got strikers. But yeah, these are really good shout.
Okay, so finally, we'll just have a quick look at the league. So I don't believe the leagues have updated. So these are leagues based on last night. The Hub £500 League in 10th place, Kevin Quinn with Quinter Milan. 9th place, Tim Barry, our friend. Can I just shock you too? Goes up to 9th place overall. He's doing very, very well. So he was on 267 points before today's points. So Well done there, Tim. In 8th, Sean Thorpe, who I believe is a footstock player as well. 7th, John McEwen. 6th, George Tildesley. 5th, Sean Robertson. 4th, Daniel Bright. 3rd, Benjamin Lee. 2nd, Chloe Stevens. I think I'm reading this right. Sorry, my version is not the best. Chloe Stevens. And 1st is Katie O'Neill. So 2 females, 1st and 2nd. Very, very well done. Really, really good stuff there. 313 points, Katie O'Neill. 313 points, and that was before today's games. So many congratulations to everyone there in the top 10 of the Hub League. And in our Home Nations League, again, this was after last night. 8th place, Daniel Cox, Fantasy Football Hub. So Dan's second team struggling there a little bit. The Sky Podcast team, which we'll look at briefly now, is in 7th place. In 6th place, Paul McAnulty, and he's also in 5th place as well. 4th place and 3rd place, Liam Dorrian. So he had a decent day yesterday. My first team was in 2nd place, so I had a fairly decent day yesterday. But look at it, I did have double Southampton defence, which obviously worked out well yesterday. And I got them at home to West Brom. I think we mentioned last week about the Everton defence and Saints defence. We brought them in for the 4 games, so that kind of worked out very well for me yesterday. And top of the shop because of his last minute Werner to Bruno captaincy shout. I think Dan Cox 12 points ahead of the pack with his supersonic team. So well done there, Dan. So that's how the Home Nation is looking at the moment. It's on its way. No, it's being retained in England at the moment, but obviously there's a long way to go.
Do you know that my second team's bottom in that? There's only 1 player difference between them 2 teams.
Is there really?
That shows you what your captaincy is.
Points.
That's De Bruyne. I went Sterling in one, De Bruyne in the other. So that's the one's top, one's bottom.
Unbelievable. Okay, so our podcast team is on screen now for everyone. So we have McCarthy in goals. Obviously had his 9-pointer yesterday. Joe
should have been man of the match.
What's that? Sorry,
he should have been man of the match.
Man of the match potentially.
2 great saves.
Gomez and Van Dijk at the back. Justin and White. So that was our back 4. De Bruyne as captain, Antonio, Soucek, and Bruno. It's actually updated. Actually, all the scores from this evening have updated. So this team is in 15,000th place, which is not a bad start for this team, to be fair, because Soucek's got his points, Bruno there, and Kane and Werner with 18. So that's our team at the moment. Not a bad team in terms of next week. Then, so we haven't got. The only injury we've got is Gomez. We've only got 0.1 in the bank, so we can't get to Salah tomorrow for 1 move. I suppose is the issue we've got with this team. So what we'll do is instead of shouting it out on here, we'll do what we did last week, and we'll put some polls up on the Twitter for what we're going to do there. But probably the options I would guess there is maybe Kane down to Mane potentially as one option, or just stick it on Van Dijk as another one potentially. But we'll put some polls on there for any transfers and for some captains for next weekend. Again, I would imagine De Bruyne would be popular on Saturday, and potentially maybe even Bruno on the Sunday. They are home to Spurs, or maybe the Liverpool player we bring in there. And Talon Adema just said Gomez is back in training. Oh, and Aaron Alton has just said Katie O'Neill is a lad on the WhatsApp group. Okay, apologies for that. And as Hornet just said, the scores have been updated. So that's our team. If anyone wants to have a shout on anything there, we will be doing our overhaul with this team as well, with everyone. The week before we come back. In all fairness, I think it's had a decent start. We've only used 1 transfer, overall rank 15,600. So I think that's not a bad start, to be fair. So we'll probably use a 2nd transfer, so 2 in total. But a decent start there.
Gomez might be fit, I think.
Yeah, Tala just said Gomez is back in training, so he may be fit. Yes, of course, because I think that it was mentioned last week that wasn't fit, but we'll see. But well done everyone there for our podcast team. It's looking pretty good, to be fair there. Alan89 from Ben Dinnery. The Times reporting that Alisson and Thiago will be assessed after missing training. So no mention of Gomez there, so we may be back, obviously. But I thought Fabinho did play well last week, didn't he, in the game that he played, where he played at centre-back as well. Okay, finally then, we come on to the most important part of the night, Dan's rant. So, Dan, what has upset you this week?
God, I could go on for about 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Before I do that, I just say thanks to everyone who is watching. And it's a bit late, we should have said at the start, but if you're here for FPL, this is not the podcast for you.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching anyway. And if you want me to rate your wild card, just DM me on Twitter. Don't waste the time here. Yeah, so the few things annoyed me. So I know it's a while ago, but Monday, Sky Fantasy Twitter, we know they're, well, bless said. They put up a poll, didn't they, for captain on Monday. So Man City v Wolves or Villa v Sheffield United. Their 4 options were Sterling, Jimenez, Traore, Grealish. Not even De Bruyne. He's the highest owned player in the whole game at he was at 47%. They even list him in their poll, and then he scores does a full house. I did it. I emailed the boss and said who does the Twitter? Is he an effing idiot? He didn't reply. Actually, he's funny enough, but I just think that's just ridiculous, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I just could not believe. And everyone on there, I'm thinking, are they doing it? Are they being like Durham on TalkSport? Just put up something so stupid, people will comment and
reaction,
do you know what I mean? Or I thought, are they doing it? So, do you know what? Because they don't want to upset any, I don't know, Villa fans. They're not going to list them. They've got to list the Villa player because if they don't say, Grealish, they weren't even doing that because they had Jimenez and Traore. Do you know what I mean? So why not have De Bruyne? That was just madness. And then when I was thinking about that, I think, well, I did a poll today and I didn't even list Vardy, so I suppose I can't talk too much. But at least I had the percentage there. So that annoyed me. So I'll give him a bit of a slap for that, right? But then I'll praise him on the other hand because only took you 9 months, but they got a face for Bruno Fernandes. So, give you a bit of praise for that. What else has annoyed me? So that was that. The penalty, that weren't on my list, the penalty thing, because that hadn't affected me. If I'd have had a couple of Spurs defenders, then I'd be fuming. But, everyone's going to talk about that anyway. But it's stupid, isn't it? If it hits your hands, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? That the Dyer one, he didn't. It's just ridiculous. I always think Henry when he actually put his hand out to it. If it's if you're moving your hand towards the ball, that's a pen. These ones where it just hits you. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? That does. It's just stupid. But I say that wasn't even on my list really because that hasn't affected me. But I'm sure when it does, I'll be fuming. But yeah, I think that was about it really for this week. Oh, do you know what else annoyed me today? When we put out questions on Twitter, right? Can someone send in your questions, right? Other people, you don't need to start answering it. They're asking us. Ain't going to name no names, but you know who you are. Rob.
Thanks for that, Dan. Very good rant, Dan, as usual. Thank you very much there. So thank you, everyone, as usual, for supporting us on this live stream and interacting with us. One favour, could everyone please retweet the podcast when we tweet it out either later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning? And could everyone who is online at the moment, so I can see there's 80 odd people watching now, could everyone just drop it a quick like, please? It does have a phenomenal impact on YouTube and the watches and ratings. If everyone could just drop it a little like now. We've only got 15 likes so far with 82 watching. I know it's not that bad, so could everyone do that, please? That would be very, very good. So Dan, where can people find you?
Yeah, Twitter, Dan Cox 82, and my article on the Hub every Friday with my thoughts for the weekend. And like I say, because it's now Sunday, so a lot can change, kind of what you're thinking by Friday. So yeah, those 2 places.
Good stuff. And Paul, where can we find you?
At Paul McAnulty 1, MCANULTY.
One of the guys has just reminded me on the chat. Monday's captain tomorrow is Samatta or Francis Jeffers. Samatta's actually left the country now, haven't he? After he let me down post lockdown. I can't remember where he's gone. Is it Fenerbahce or something like that? Wasn't it? Yeah. So he'll be missed. He was a legend in the making. But thanks for that, Bear. Indeed. And thanks to the guys in the chat, Hornet, Matt Bell, and Mark. We will see you all next week. So my Twitter handle is at Fergie222. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub, Sky and TFF YouTube channel and available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please click the like button. And remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave some comments. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. Our podcast Twitter handles is FFH_Sky. So please follow and feel free to ask any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more, all of which is now available on our free app for iOS and Android, which you will find in your respective app stores, searching for Fantasy Football Hub. Thank you very much again, everyone in the chat for all your comments. We'll see you next week, and we'll be back next week where we will start looking at the overhaul team. So I think all the games will have finished by the time we go live next week. They will have just finished, I believe, unless it's a really late one. But we will start talking overhaul next week, and then the following week after that we will build our overhaul team. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much as usual for your interaction and everything else, and we will see you next week. Good night.